So most of the content in my work, especially in the beginning of my practice, came from my community and the history of my community, especially the women. I always say, or even in if I have to be more specific, in my master's paper, I dealt with like 3 levels of trauma that the Black female body, especially from Pomfret experience. The first one was obviously colonialism, you know, being oppressed by the Portuguese. The second was the Civil War, you know, after the independence, you know, the Civil War in Angola that lasted for like 22 years. And then the third was obviously the woman in, like, you know, there's something else that I speak about also in terms of that is like, you know, a lot of Black communities, if we're going through oppression or some type of difficult time, we come together, right? And then you put your trust in the community. So in the beginning, you know, during colonialism, you know, different Africans came together to fight colonialism at the time. And then the second wave is like, you know, the different parties and their beliefs came together, you know, and so they can have a sense of freedom even after independence, you know, and be led by who they want to be led by. And then the second is like, you know, the woman really, you know, put their trust in their husbands, you know, because that's your home now. Your husband is your home, you know, and then to experience abuse and trauma, like, you know, from someone that you trust and someone that you consider as your home, you know, it's a very difficult thing, you know. So those stories, and obviously, and then not say that those are the only stories from the community. There are stories of fun and happy, and stories of people growing up, and you know, stories of even there was the tribal wars, and you know, there are difficult and funny stories about the different tribal wars in the community, you know. So yeah, so those stories kind of, especially in the beginning of my practice, really influenced my work. You know, I used to perform, I used to do installations, and you know, rewrite and recreate the stories in my art.
Okay, excellent, Cece. Now tell us, there are symbols that one notices quite a lot in a number of your collage, your paintings. For example, the scenario, how it's always done in such a manner that it's in a confined room or space. The second symbol would be the balloon that you have quite often. And the third one, the strings that you have. Can you please just rapidly go through those for us and tell us what they mean to you?
So in the beginning, I think last year, I had a show with Everard Reed called The Ward Home. And then the idea of the room kind of started there, you know, when I was speaking about, you know, the experience of women, you know, I guess in a wild time of, like, in a difficult time in history, and obviously the abuse they experienced in that home and the conversations. So I kind of created like these rooms where these women and different families were engaged. I wouldn't say different characters from the time would like engage with each other, you know, and have those difficult conversations. That I guess, like, even now, like it took my family a while to speak about their history, you know, and the trauma that my grandmother experienced, the trauma that my mom and dad experienced, you know. So it started there, and then I kind of like carried on with it, you know, where it became like the space where I created the archive. Yeah, you know, where I can take this characters and then they can rewrite. Yeah, they can rewrite their history. And then the balloons. The balloons kind of, you know, the balloons is a part of something that I call balancing the painting.
Okay.
So they mean different things in different paintings. But if it had to be in a painting where I'm not dealing specifically, for example, the history of rubber in South Africa, or trying to speak about, you know, how a lot of Africans, and I even say specific to South Africa, looking at the time of Corona, like how we deal with, you know, pain is through humor, and you know. Yeah, so the balloons kind of play into that, you know. Either they could be, you know, about, you know, balancing the painting by putting a yellow balloon on a navy blue wall just to create that balance, or they could be speaking about something specific. So now the red, usually if I have like, it wasn't a string first. At first was like drippings, you know, and then usually if I have it red, I'm speaking about my bloodline and my family history. And then after a while, it became like, I think part of my work aesthetically, you know. And then sometimes when I'm trying to balance, I said about balancing with the balloons, I'll also balance the painting with the string as well, you know, like, you know, putting a bright red string on like a light blue wall, and what that does to the eye. And to me, it's probably just me being OCD about my paintings and how I want it to be balanced. But as I said, it depends like where I am conceptually, and it depends on the series that I'm working on. Yeah.
Okay, excellent. Now, you are a huge advocate of rewriting histories, and having heard where you're coming from, one can understand. You've taken this a bit far now, because you are part of a collective also, a collective called Kutala. Can you please tell us more about this collective, the work that you do, and what is the importance for you of rewriting history?
So the collective is called Kutala Chopeto.
Kutala Chopeto.
It's fine. You're not the first one to get it wrong. And then Kutala is my second name, which the Mbundus in Angola will know more. But the way my grandmother explained it to me is like a verb. Kutala means look far, or look beyond.
Okay.
And then Chopeto is Helena Wambembe. That's my collective partner, amazing artist, Helena Wambembe. Chopeto, I think it was her mom's name, and Chopeto means something soft in Mbundu, yeah.
So we looking far to something soft.
Oh yeah, to see, like, we kind of put it like to see beyond something soft.
Excellent.
You know,
that also.
Yeah. And the project kind of started in a way like us investigating and engaging with our family history, because we didn't know much. We were as clueless as everyone else. And even though we did have some stories from our families and our grandparents, we still really wanted to go like deeper and then learn more about the community. And, you know, so when we started doing the research and reading, we have realized that the stories are very different. I can say very different from what we got on the internet. A lot is written about the army and the 32 Battalion. I think they are still known as one of the best special forces ever created in Africa. They're even known as the terrible ones.
Oh, wow. Okay.
So yeah, but not a lot was written about the community. That, you know, a lot of people like, okay, there was
the trauma that they suffered.
Yeah, and the trauma that the community experienced. You can't
be the best and not have the trauma that goes with being the best.
Yeah, true. Yeah. So Helena, what we did, like, okay, the best way is to reach out to the people of the community, neighbors in Pomfret. You know, we went to our grandparents and other people's grandparents and kind of found out about the stories. And then it was, in the beginning, it was very much documentary style. So basically, this is the story, and we tell the story in the performance as is, whether it was a video or something like that. But we got a lot of backlash from our own families, because it's recent history, you know. It's only been like 25, like it's you know, it's only been 25 years, you know. So my grandparents are still alive, you know, my parents are still alive, and it's their history, you know. So some of the stories are very sensitive, you know. So what I went back to the drawing board, and I decided, like, you know, okay, how do I approach this history without throwing my community under the bus?
Without being sensitive about
it. I feel like the art industry, you know, the art industry kind of loves a sad African story, you know, that's what sells. Do you get what I'm saying? So I was like, okay, let me fictionalize and write some of the stories into fairy tales, you know, to show, you know, I can even say, like, the stories became more emotive, and I could create a certain atmosphere with the stories. And then through that, I realized I'm starting to recreate my own archive of my family and African history as well, because, you know, it is African history, you know, and then I started translating that into my paintings as well.